My name is Caitlin Hunt, and this is my audience for my persuasive speech on why I think attendance should not be taken in college. I think every college student can relate to the feeling of annoyance when it's the beginning of the semester and the professor is going over the syllabus, and then he says attendance will be taken this semester. Makes you feel like you're in high school again, right? Except this time we're actually paying them to go to school. Now, as a college student, we are considered adults, right? Or at least that's what every college professor seems to tell you at college. But if we are such grown adults, then why do they feel the need to take our attendance for class? If we miss class and our grades suffer, it should be our fault, right? However, a lot of students can make great grades without even coming to class at all. Now let's think about high school again for a second. In high school, our attendance was taken, and if we didn't go, our parents were called. College attendance is doing the same thing pretty much, except they aren't calling our parents this time. They're dropping us from the course. A little more serious than calling our parents. Thinking on a professor's point of view. I've talked to a couple professors here at Tri-County, and most of them agree on the fact that they should not be made to take time out of their teaching period to take attendance. I was a student at Coastal Carolina University for a semester, and I will never forget the first day of my geography class and my geography professor saying that taking attendance was the biggest waste of time. He said, a student either wants to learn and pass this class, or they don't. And as the student, you know whether or not you need to be in my class to do so. I think this is how every professor should look at it. If the student is making the grade needed for the class, it shouldn't matter whether or not they're in there or not. Some students do not need to have to listen to a teacher or their professor to gather the information needed to pass the test. I could understand if a person was doing horrible in that class and has still not been coming to the class period, then of course I think the professor should take actions against that person. Such classes as online classes don't even take attendance, and as we all know, those classes do great, and a lot of people succeed in those. Now I think for a lab or a hand-on class, such as a biology lab, that attendance should definitely be taken. Because how could the professor grade an on-hand assignment for someone who didn't even show up to that class period? But again, that brings me back to the point that it should be up to the student to take on the responsibility if they miss that class. A lot of professors have websites that you can go on if you miss a day or two or even a week, and it shows them everything that they've missed and whether or not you can make it up. Some professors don't allow you to. I agree with that. Now, a spring-fall semester class lasts about 14 weeks for any college. For here at Tri-County, you can miss up to 6 days of class, but no more than 2 consecutive weeks of class, or you can be dropped from that course. I understand that there has to be some consequences for that many absences, but I do not think it should be being dropped from that course. Some people have to work to support themselves and possibly family members. Not everyone still lives at home like many students in college do. Sometimes mistakes are made at work for scheduling, and you have to miss class to go to work to continue supporting your family or other things you need to pay. As long as your grade is good in that class, absences should not matter, and it should definitely not lead to possibly being dropped from that class. I think some exceptions should be made. During a semester of college, there are many life issues that could come up upon this time frame. Like I said, around 14 weeks. And as adults, I don't believe it would be fair to tell a college student that their attendance could cause them to fail a class that he or she paid for. It should be up to that adult to make sure they know the information needed for that class coming up. I believe that attendance is important on the test days especially because we all know that tests are a big part of the overall grade you will receive at the end of the semester. If that students know that the test is coming up, they should be prepared for it regardless of their absences. We all know that a lot of students decide to not show up for certain test days or days that projects are due because they think maybe the professor will give them a little bit of extra time, and that's just not fair to everyone else. Also, if a project was done or an assignment was done during that class period that the person missed, I do not think that those should be allowed to be made up. That person decided to miss the class period knowing that there was something that was going to be due that day. Most of the time that's done intentionally. Now on another note, the average cost of classes per semester is $4,500 to $5,000. That's not counting all the financial aid and other help that you can get, but either way it's still a large amount of money. This large amount of money is very large for the average person. And for that reason, I think it should only be allowed that a student be dropped for failure of a class at the end of the semester because the fees are already paid. This does not include all of the books, materials, and time spent on that class, driving to and from school. We are paying for this course, and if we choose not to come and risk failing the course, it should still be our choice. We know how much we paid and how much we've sacrificed throughout that semester. If we decide to not come, I think it should still be up to us, not the professor. If the student does not fail the course, if the student does fail the course, they are the one who loses the money that they paid at the beginning of the semester. And the school gets paid again when the student has to take it over. The college benefits from that, of course. However, I think an alternative punishment could be that if at the end of the semester the student hasn't passed the course, they would be required to pay more money and retake the course until they get a passing grade. Not pay for a whole nother course. Just pay another fee at the end. I do not believe that they should be made to retake the course. That's not fair. As college students, we are looked at as adults. Not all students have to be in class and listen to a person to pass it. We pay for the class we take, and we know that if we don't show up, that we could possibly be dropped. That should still be our decision either way. Now this is my opinion on why I think attendance should not be taken in college, because we are all considered adults.